great pleasure that I present to you the Honorable Dr. Steve Gallen, everyone. The Honorable Dr. Steve Gallen III is the elected District 1 School Board member for the Miami-Dade County Schools in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Dr. Gallen is a lifelong educator who served as a teacher, assistant principal, elementary and high school principal, district administrator, and last but not least, a superintendent of schools. Thank you so much, Dr. Gallen. Please come over.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's give this young lady another round of applause. I'm not only applauding her for her voice, I'm also applauding her because she's a graduate of Miami Northwestern Senior High School. I was the principal of Northwestern High School for 7 years. Unfortunately, I was gone when she came, when she graduated, but we all know each other and recognize each other as both. So again, always glad to see another both. I want to thank Kurt, Michelle, Tim, and Shona for extending this opportunity to each and every one of you. Also want to thank Dante. I'll be remiss, and my assistant said, I don't know who this Dante is, but he must be a very special guy. Yes. yes. To get up in the morning, this beautiful morning, this holiday, really is something that's very special to me, very special to him, and very special to each and every one of you. Want to thank you for that introduction. It seems like I've done a lot, but I've done nothing. God has done everything.
Amen.
Amen. Yes.
I am just a kid from Liberty City that embraced education and saw it as my passport to learning and lifelong success. Again, good morning, giving honor to God who was first in my life, to the leadership of Breeze Line. This event is great. But more importantly, outside of this event, which is an episodic moment, after this is over, this will be over. But your commitment to diversity, your commitment to conclusion is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And that really is something that's important to me. Dante can attest to the fact that we have a lot of celebrations, we have a lot of activities, we have a lot of moments. But what we need with respect to inclusion, diversity, equity, and equality, we need continuous movements. Yes. So I had an opportunity to go to your website, and I actually see that you embrace diversity and inclusion as a movement. Your words, not mine. Respect is a long-standing core value that we embrace by fostering a respectful workplace where integrity, trust, and inclusion are the norm. You believe, your words, not mine, that an inclusive workplace is one where everyone feels a sense of belonging, has a safe environment in which to work and develop, and shares equal opportunities for career advancement regardless of gender, regardless of skin color, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, age, disability, or sexual orientation. And for that, you deserve a round of applause. I want to first start by saying that despite the rain, the clouds, and the sky, us reeling still from the pandemic, the challenges of the economy, I think gas prices are now starting to go down.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yes.
The controversies and challenges in our homes and our communities throughout this state and throughout this nation. And I want to say parenthetically, that is why it's so important that I punctuate and I amplify your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI, for some reason, has become bad words in some spaces. Not in this space, not in this company, not with you. And despite the challenges that we face this is still the day that the Lord has made.
Yes, it
Amen.
is.
Let each and every one of us rejoice and be glad in it. And despite over 400 years of struggle, 400 years of sacrifice, 400 years of setbacks, we are still here.
Amen.
Collectively, we are still here. I remain honored yet humbled to come before you to offer just a few words of enlightenment and encouragement as we celebrate and reflect on this beautiful, blessed Juneteenth morning. Again, I want to commend the leadership of BreezeLine for this event. Too often we get the notion that Juneteenth, Black history, Hispanic heritage, Rosh Hashanah, Ramadan, and other holidays that celebrate the history of individual peoples or their faith are restricted to those people. That Black history is for Black people. That Hispanic heritage is only for the Hispanics. That Rosh Hashanah is for Jews. That all of these different celebrations are restricted to the people who celebrate it. That somehow our struggle, our journey, our elevation, and our emancipation are not inextricably linked to our shared history in humanity. But it is. It is. Despite where we come from, we all have a shared history as human beings. Undeniable, indisputable, data-driven. But we all, individually and collectively, stand on the shoulders. We stand on the sacrifices. We stand on the struggles, the hopes, the tears, and dreams of those who came before us. We all stand. We all stand indebted to a praying and to the legacy of a powerful people. A people that were forcefully taken from their homes in Africa. A people that survived the unimaginable horrors of the Middle Passage. That picked cotton, plowed fields, and I submit to you, single-handedly placed the laborious work of building this nation on their whipped and battered backs. A people who were consistently lynched and hung from trees. It happened. It happened. And in some cases and in some corners, it still happens. We all stand, Black, white, Hispanic, gay, straight. We all stand for a people who fought in a civil war which promised a more perfect union, but yet 155 years later still fight to find civility and peace in our own backyards, while still waiting on the unfulfilled promise of 40 acres and a mule. A promise that was made. If you don't know the history, this was a promise that was made. The notion of a 40 acres and a mule, that's not just a phrase. That was a promise that was made. But because of the outcry from the same slave owners who treated blacks less than human, and after President Lincoln was assassinated, again, the promise was made. But after he was assassinated, this was a promise that was broken and revoked. A people that went through an underground railroad that had no tracks, in search of freedom and struggle through Jim Crow, through lynching, segregation, fire hoses, separate and unequal schools, which I still fight for today, and the attack of police dogs. And even after going from the outhouse to the White House and seeing the nation's first black president, a people that still see unarmed black man after unarmed black man killed at the hands of racism, and young black men killed at the hands of each other. If we're going to say it, let's say it all.
That's right, Doctor.
Because of a stare, a look, shade, an Instagram post. A people who still find it necessary to scream from the rafters that Black lives matter. All lives matter. Yes, we didn't get here by ourselves. And to me, that is what Juneteenth represents. That this nation, no matter its struggle to become a perfect union and its unfinished nature, this nation understood the assignment. That's the catchphrase a lot of times. People dress up and say, I understood the assignment. I know that's relevant in the offices as well. But understand, this nation understood the assignment. The assignment was to leave none of its citizens behind and to fully implement the intent, the letter, and the spirit of the law, of the 13th Amendment, and of the Emancipation Proclamation. Because I have 34 years in education, I just have to make sure that I give you the context of what this is all about. On Freedom's Eve, or the eve of January 1st, 1863, the first watch night services took place. On that night, enslaved and free African Americans gathered in churches and private homes all across the country, waiting on news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered, as all enslaved people in the Confederate States were declared legally free. Again, this was January 1st, 1863. That declaration was made. Union soldiers, many of whom were black, marched onto plantations and across cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, spreading the good news of freedom in Confederate states. Only through the 13th Amendment did emancipation end slavery throughout the United States. But not everyone in the Confederate territory would immediately be free. Not everyone. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was made effective in 1863, it could not be implemented in places still under Confederate control. As a result, in the westernmost Confederate state of Texas, enslaved people would not be free until much later. How much later? How much later? From 1863, freedom finally came on June 19th. On this date, in 1865, much later, years later, when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, the Army announced that more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were free by executive decree. This day came to be known as Juneteenth by the newly freed people in Texas. Even though the law, the spirit and the intent of the law said they are free, freedom came by force. The law had to be followed and implemented by soldiers in those respected places. I can fast forward to talk about how freedom and integration also was a part of the law. But we still had people like Ruby Bridges that had to be escorted into schoolhouse doors by soldiers to get an education over 100 years later. The post-emancipation period, known as the Reconstruction, marked an era of great hope. It marked an era of great uncertainty and struggle for the nation as a whole. Formerly enslaved people immediately sought to reunify families, establish schools, run for political office, push radical legislation, and even sue slaveholders for compensation, given the 200 plus years of enslavement. Such changes were nothing short of amazing. Not even a generation out of slavery, African Americans were inspired and empowered to transform their lives and this country. And I will say parenthetically once again, they did not do it alone. They did not do it alone. If you look at the history of this country, if you look at the history of civilization, if you look at the history of the struggle for freedom and emancipation, blacks did not do it alone. Right. From the abolitionist movement to whites teaching blacks how to read, to whites marching, protesting, fighting, and dying in this country during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Whites were lynched too. Yes. Whites were lynched too for standing up for freedom and justice. Juneteenth marks our country's second Independence Day. Although it is long celebrated in the African American community, this monumental event remains largely unknown to most Americans until now. The historical legacy of Juneteenth shows the value of never ever, 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 ever giving up.
Woo!
And leaving nobody behind. And on this morning, where we say is largely celebrated in the black community, look around this office.
That's right.
Look around Breezeline.
Beautiful.
And again, Kurt, to the leadership of this organization, I salute you. I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and we represent what this state, this nation needs to stand for. That is strength, solidarity, peace, love, unity, and humanity. Juneteenth reflected that spirit of never giving up. And yesterday, as we celebrate, we must embrace that same resilient spirit and never give up on our communities. We must never give up on this state. We must never give up on this nation, despite some of the draconian laws that will go into effect in this state on July 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We must never, ever give up. They didn't give up back in 1863.
Sure did.
They left no blacks, no people, no citizens behind. So I say to you, go out and fight for freedom and fairness and do justice in every community.
Mm-hmm.
You all do justice in every company. Do justice in every courtroom. And do justice in every corner. Do justice. Do justice. Be a leader of learning. Be a leader of love. Go out and bring darkness to literacy. Bring light to the darkness of poverty. Be a leader and bring light to the darkness of community violence. Lead the fight against the darkness of social injustice. And go out and put a spotlight and help in the darkness of systemic racism, because it still exists. No matter what they say, it exists. But know that in the words of Amanda Gorman, and as the freedom promised through the Emancipation Proclamation had not arrived to all, that promise was made, but it was not delivered to all. That promise was on the books, but it had not meant for all. Despite that, through the emancipation had not arrived, the world is still for many of us. The world is still for most of us. The world, Kurt, is still for all of us. Mm-hmm. The hill we still climb. And as I close and prepare to return to my seat, I leave you with the powerful words from the end of Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. That's what that was about. Yes, they said every nook. Every nook. They went to Texas because Texas was still an unfree, unfinished nook of emancipation. But Amanda Gorman says in every nook of our nation, in every corner, Dante called our country.
Yes, sir.
Our people in this room, diverse. Our people in this room, diverse and beautiful. Our people at Breezeline, diverse and beautiful.
That's right.
Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and powerful when day comes. We step out of the shade of flame, but we also step out the shade unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it. I want to commend Breezeline for being brave enough to be the light of inclusion, to be the light of diversity, to be the light of solidarity, to be the light of unity, to be the light of equity, to be the light of equality, and to be the light of love. May God continue to protect you and provide you with the courage to continue to be the light and show the world the beautiful light that you are. Again, congratulations as we celebrate Juneteenth. I salute you. May God bless you, and may the wind continue to be at your back.